Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. So car reviews are back. I'm going to finally review the update 1.29 cars, starting with the Honda RA272. So I went to do this video originally when update 1.29 released, and sadly all the footage when I went back the other day was basically completely corrupted and gone. So I've had to redo all the footage again, so I do apologise that the video is kind of out a bit later, what with being sick and then obviously the footage being completely gone. So I've finally redone it and it's finally ready to go. So if you've never joined me for a car review, this is how they're going to work. Because this is a race car, it will get a single lap around the Nordschleife Nürburgring, and we'll see where it ranks on our hot lap leaderboard. Throughout the video, I'll give you my thoughts and my opinions about this car, and really if I think it's worth your time and effort within Gran Turismo 7 to actually go out your way and purchase it. So with all that stuff finally out of the way and done with, let's get into my final thoughts and review of the Honda RA272 within Gran Turismo 7. Now obviously because I've had to redo all of the footage, by the time I've got around to do the footage again, this car has now left the legendary dealership. It comes in at a price of 2.5 million, at least the first time it was in there. It can fluctuate depending on, I guess, real life prices, whatever they want to do with the Hagerty dealership. Overall, it's not really too much of a bad price. In fact, I was expecting this car to cost more, around the same as the McLaren Honda that we got, I believe, about 4 or 5 updates ago at this point. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the drivability of this thing, because whilst it's an absolutely amazing car to drive, it's an absolute pleasure, plenty of grip and feels really good to push on the edge. It does have a little bit of slip at the rear, but that's to be expected. But I do have a bit of a problem with it. This is a classic Formula 1 car from 1965, so you would expect it to behave just like that. And in all honesty, it doesn't. It kind of lacks the adrenaline that you'd expect from an old F1 car. In terms of playing it within VR, like I showcased earlier, it's fantastic. But again, it just feels a little bit too easy to drive. I kind of want it to just throw me into the barrier and completely snap on me. And whilst that might not sound great in terms of the way it drives and the way it handles and would essentially make the car a bit of a dog, but in all honesty, that's kind of the raw feeling I want to get from this car, which I currently don't. It just feels far too easy to drive. But that is a personal gripe from me. It might not matter to you. You might not want this car to be an absolute, nightmare to handle. But yeah, in terms of its actual drivability, it's very good. If the rear end starts slipping and stuff, you can guarantee you're going to be able to catch it rather quite easily. Next up, let's talk about its speed and acceleration, and it honestly just doesn't disappoint. It may be because of the tiny frame of this car. It feels very small, feels very low to the ground, that it really does feel like an absolute pocket rocket. It's unreal, and overall it's really not that fast of a car, not compared to some of the more modern standards within the game. Overall, I was finding this car was topping out around about 176 in the straight line. In terms of its acceleration, it's a classic Formula 1 car. It does accelerate. It's nothing too mind-blowing, but it does the job, and it does it pretty damn well. So from a raw specs and performance point, this is a fantastic all-around car. Even if my personal little nitpick may kind of deduct it a few points from me personally, I still think overall as a complete package, this is a very solid all-around car. Now, believe it or not, this car is much more usable than I first ever thought it would be. It's actually a very good grinding car, and I think that's common knowledge at this point, that for 700 and even 600 pp races, this car can be built very well. So in terms of maybe running it at Tokyo, you can do a 0-stop build. In terms of running it at Le Mans, you can basically go a lot of laps without having to refill, and it feels very good and very quick. So it does have a lot of usability to be able to earn that money back that you've originally put out to pay the 2.5 million for it, and it is an enjoyable drive, to be quite honest. But where this car really excels in my opinion has to be its looks and its sound. In terms of its sound design, well, just sit back and have a quick listen to this. when this thing is going crazy in replays or you're absolutely throwing it about, no matter which camera angle you are in, it sounds absolutely amazing. It really doesn't disappoint in the sound department, which is one thing that I feel like certain cars really kind of lack within GT7. It's either they sound absolutely fantastic or they sound just a little bit off. And I genuinely think this is a solid sounding car. Sounds absolutely brilliant. The best time I've ever heard it was actually in VR mode replay, which was just absolutely incredible. But let's talk about the looks. So this is something that I mentioned in my PSVR 2 showcase, that this car reminds me of an old Japanese World War II fighter, mainly because from the inside the dials are all analog and ticking over, and it just looks absolutely fantastic, hence why you're seeing a Japanese Zero livery on it. I just think it looks like a pure proper Japanese fighter craft. I don't know what it is about these old Formula 1 cars that just look really awesome with kind of like old school plane liveries on. I've seen a bunch of ones with like Spitfires on and all that cool stuff. I just think they really do suit this car, and obviously with it being, you know, Japanese, you know, Honda and all that stuff, I obviously had to go and put a Japanese you know, plane livery on it. I just think it looks absolutely fantastic. There is a ton of livery options for this car, some really clever designs out there, whether it be Lotus, Ferrari. Like I mentioned, there's a few kind of, you know, old World War II fighter liveries out there. They all look absolutely awesome. I've noticed this car overall seems to make a very good canvas. So if you are someone that is a bit of a dab hand at the kind of, you know, paint booth and all that good stuff and livery creation, then this is a solid car to do a bit of your best work on. I think one of the most iconic and standout features is a dual exhaust that kind of just go straight out of the back. They look like they extend so far, and the fact that your driver's just kind of enclosed in this cockpit with an engine at the back of him and this big long bonnet out front with almost zero protection. Obviously these were dangerous cars back in the day, and it really does feel like that while you're driving this thing. I feel like Polyphony have massively done a great job on capturing just how dangerous these machines feel and how enclosed it must have felt to be driving them about. Not only that, all of the moving parts at the rear just look absolutely fantastic, especially when you're kind of looking at the suspension and such and just watching it all kind of work and tick over. It looks absolutely brilliant. So top job to Polyphony on the model design and the way they've made this look and kind of brought it into the game. It's just absolutely probably my favorite in terms of just watching everything tick over and work. So another thing I mentioned in my PSVR 2 kind of showcase of this car is that I absolutely love the interior. So we're going to have a look at it, and as you can see, it's all pretty old school and enclosed and very much analog. I kind of, like I said, kind of think about a World War II fighter when I see this interior. It just looks absolutely ridiculous. It really does look like you're pretty much riding around in a big metal tomb, basically, you know, like a fighter plane. It's just absolutely crazy. It's really detailed as well, the fact that they've got pretty much everything spot on. However, I do have a little kind of complaint about it. There is one single thing that constantly bugs me about this car, and it's to do with the inside of it. As you can see, your driver will pretty much always drive with one hand on the gear stick instead of having two hands on the wheel. It's very frustrating, especially if you're holding a wheel and stuff, to see your driver doing one-handed while you're kind of there with two. I know it's a little bit of a nitpick, but it really does kind of grind on me after a bit of kind of using that in-car view. But, you know, it is what it is. I just wish Polyphony had kind of tone it down with the one-handed driving at over like 200 mile an hour at times. So after its hot lap on the Nordschleife, where does this car come in? So it falls in the 600 pp category. It's come overall 9th place with a 7 minutes 17.438, just behind a Suzuki Swift Sport, the Group 4 car, and in front of a legendary Ford Le Mans race car, which I think it's rather quite impressive considering the amount of straight line speed that the Ford actually has over this car. So it just shows you how nimble and pretty good this car is for those tighter sections. So there we have it. That is the first of the update 1.29 cars reviewed, and I honestly think this is the best of the bunch, and if not one of the best cars that we've ever had added post-release to Gran Turismo 7. It's fantastic. It feels like it basically came out of nowhere, and I genuinely haven't found a person that doesn't like this car yet. If you have missed it the first time around, you definitely want to be picking this up the next time you see it in that legendary dealership. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications on so you don't miss an upload from me. I upload GT7 and motorsport content for your viewing pleasure each and every day. Now I am finally back. Big shout out to my channel members and poggers and the controller people for your continued support to the channel. As always, have a fantastic day. My Discord, Twitter and donation link will be down in the description down below, and I will see you all later on. Take care, guys. Peace.